Alrighty, so preseason power rankings. These are perilous at the best of times because we're going based on last season, we're going based on what we've seen in the preseason, and we're going based on, there's a lot of hunches that go on with this. Now, I did look today, and I said, yeah, no, there's other websites doing power rankings. I wanted to show you guys the brand new power rankings board, 4 feet by 2 feet. I've been using a board of this size for the NFL power rankings, and I still am. There's 2 boards now of this size. The NFL ones, I just have the 32 logos. This one's far more in depth. NHL standings, I will track down here. You'll notice this is just all alphabetical order by division. High and low, so I will track the highest and the lowest that each team gets during the year. And then last week's will be here again. These are just in alphabetical order. 2 weeks ago, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can track week to week what kind of trends we're seeing and just how quickly the rankings I'm about to tell you guys about change. They're going to change. And again, there's a lot of conjecture that goes on with this. And I've been looking over these all day. I really have. And I'm like, okay. And so next week, the numbers you're about to see will be here as last week's rankings. And then I'll debut the brand new ones. And every week, they'll get moved down. And if it's more than 6 weeks old, they're out. And then I can also do like a point system where at the end of the year, we can look and say, these teams consistently were at or near the top of the power rankings. And people are going to point out, I'm going to say this now, yeah, Tampa Bay was at the top of these power rankings most of last year, and then they didn't win a game in the playoffs. Being the absolute best team during the regular season doesn't necessarily matter come postseason, but it's still a fun thing to look at. Number 31, Ottawa. Now, they were 31 the last time I did this. They were 31 at the end of last year. I have a feeling that if they can eke out some wins using this gritty style of game being played, and no, I'm not talking about the Philadelphia mascot, I'm talking about this system that DJ Smith wants to play, they could eke out some wins and they could pull their way out of last overall. They may not finish 31st overall. They likely don't end up pushing for a playoff spot, but they may end up not being the worst by the end of the year. Number 30, down 2 spots from where they were the last time I did this, which was in July. I've got Detroit. So Detroit, again, there's a lot of good young players here, but realistically, Detroit is going to be one of those teams that could very well end up finishing last overall. It is possible. And considering Lafreniere, whoever wins the draft lottery this year is getting a pretty decent star player at the number 1 overall spot this year. So if Detroit were to say win a lottery this year, better late than never, right? The one thing I'm interested in seeing with Detroit as well is Seider going to start the season with the Wings, or is he going to get sent down? That's what I'm interested in. Number 28, moving up 1 spot from where they were in July. Again, the last time I did this was July 15th. I did consult that list before doing this one. And the Kings move up 1 spot. Scoring. They need a bounce-back year from Kovalchuk, and at this stage of the game, it's not highly likely, or they need a huge breakthrough from a guy like Amadio. They need a big upswing from Iafallo. They need some scoring, and then they need that defense, which they've kind of retooled a little bit in the offseason to show some results. And I think the goaltending picture needs to be really clear as well. So if it's going to be Quick and Campbell, awesome. It has to be them all year, and Quick needs to stay healthy as well. Number 28, dropping 2 spots from the last time I did this, and it's Anaheim. Much like LA, it's the scoring. And during the preseason, I didn't see a lot of the names on there that I wanted to see. I didn't see a lot of the kids on there that I wanted to see, not as often as I wanted to either. And again, preseason, you kind of have to look at it and say, okay, well, some of this matters, but a lot of it may not. And for Anaheim, for me, it's just their goaltending's great. Their shots versus shots against has been better this preseason than what we saw during the regular season last year. But I don't see them as a threat for a playoff spot with how they've played in the preseason so far. Number 27, moving up 2 spots from last time. Oiler fans will not be happy about this. I know that. I don't see them finishing very. I look at those wings. Like I look at the projected lineup. If they put Draisaitl down the middle and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins down the middle, and if you had, obviously McDavid as number 1 center, those wings are anemic. And maybe Yurko comes in and scores 15 goals this year. Maybe they get 25 goals out of Neil. There's just a lot of maybes in there. So for right now, preseason, I have them in 27th. Could they jump up? Yes. I also have concerns with their goaltending, and we'll see how that turns out as well. Number 26, moving up one spot from the last time I did this, and it's Minnesota. I do like the fact that the Wild seem to be owning the fact that everybody is counting them out already, and they're wearing this as a badge of honor that they're going to come out and prove all of us wrong. I don't know that they necessarily have the manpower for that, but the fact that they're pushing Victor Rask potentially completely out of the lineup despite his the amount of cap hit he takes up, that's gutsy, and it shows that Boudreau is going to put the best team on the ice. Anytime that a team goes, you know what, this guy makes a lot of money, but he didn't qualify out of camp, I respect that. It can be tough because you're going to take a lot of criticism as a general manager for demoting a guy that you gave a lot of money or a guy you acquired that makes a lot of money in this case. But I do admire the guts in that. Number 25, dropping one spot from the last time, and that's Philly. We will see how Philly transitions this year. I love Carter Hart. I just don't know that the rest of this roster, we'll see. And I know the Kevin Hayes signing is one that now we look at all these other signings. We look at the contract, the amount of money given to Kevin Hayes, and we do feel that it's a little bit rich. Many of us do. And we'll see if he can make it work with that lineup. If he can put up 55, 60 points and have a career year, then we'll all be quiet next summer at this time. But for right now, again, this list is obviously going to be based on what we've seen and what's likely. Number 24, dropping 5 spots from last week. I'm nervous about the Rangers. Yeah. And I know they got better as the preseason went along, but I don't know. I love the D'Angelo contract. I mentioned that in the review tonight. I do like Lundqvist. I want to see him have a really good year. I want to see a push from the Rangers for a playoff spot for Lundqvist's sake. I just don't know that they have the roster to pull that off. I don't think the rebuild's completely done. Retool, I guess, is the term that's been used, but I don't know that it's completely done, and that's why the Rangers are where they are. Number 23, dropping 3 spots from where I had them last time, is Vancouver. I think Vancouver's going to score a lot of goals. I also think Vancouver's going to allow a lot of goals. The way they were playing in preseason, that loosey-goosey style, you can't play that way during the regular season. And then you factor in Brock Besser with a concussion, and he's just started skating today. That's why Vancouver drops for me. They started out really well in the preseason, then they had that poor game against LA. They had the good game here against Ottawa. But while it was a good game that they won, that's not the way you should play. You shouldn't be winning games 6-4. You should be winning 4-2, and it should feel like that defense is there, and it doesn't feel like they're there right now. Number 22, moving up 3 spots from where I had them last time, is Buffalo. So the Sabres, I thought, had a gutsy comeback today against Pittsburgh. I mentioned that in the review. And I do think that Buffalo, I see them as being more respectable this year throughout the season. I still don't know that they can be a playoff team. I have them in Vancouver in that same situation, which is fan bases that really want a playoff team. I don't know that it's there. A lot with Buffalo is going to be riding on Ullmark. I don't think that Hutton is a full-fledged starter in the NHL. I think you're better off to have a 1A, 1B situation and have Ullmark as your 1A. Number 21, dropping 4 spots from where I had them last time, and that is Chicago. Now, I don't think Chicago is going to have a bad season. I just bumped some teams ahead of them. I still think Chicago's a dark horse. You can throw away the result against Boston today because that was Rockford. That wasn't Chicago. So you can't look at that one and go, oh, look at the Hawks. That wasn't them. They will start their season overseas, and we'll have a good idea a week from now about what kind of a start we can expect from them. Kane's got to have another pretty big season for them, and DeBrincat has to show that he is a 40-goal scorer year by year. It's going to be interesting to see, too, that retooled defense and see how things turn out for Chicago. Number 20, down 2 spots from where they were last time around, and that's Columbus. Columbus, preseason, Korpisalo's numbers were okay. He looked good. Elvis, we'll see. Again, but when we're in the we'll see stage, things get tricky. I do expect a lot of disagreement with these power rankings. This happens preseason. It happened last year too. Again, this is a starting point, and for me, Columbus, I don't see them as a playoff team right now because I see some teams in the East being better. Number 19, moving up 2 spots from where they were the last time I did this, that's Arizona. I'm still concerned about their scoring, but their goaltending looks solid. Aiden Hill had a good preseason, and Kemper had an amazing game at the end of the preseason to show that he's healthy. And Phil Kessel, it's up to you. The scoring and turning things around is going to be up to Phil Kessel, and we'll see if he's up to the job. Number 18, moving up 4 spots from where I had him last time, Montreal. They didn't have as solid a finish to the exhibition season as they had a start to that exhibition season, but they still go out on a winning note. I think adding Suzuki definitely looks ready to play and play a prominent role on special teams. I think that could be a big boost for Montreal, and I would not be surprised to see them in the top 16 as soon as next week. Number 17, dropping 1 spot from where I had them last time around, and that's Pittsburgh. The loss of Crosby, we don't know how long that's going to be for. It's an ankle, which can be tricky, because an ankle, it could be nothing, or it could be hairline fracture. It could be a lot of things. So we'll see where Pittsburgh's at, and there just seems to be something a little bit off with. But again, part of it with the exhibition season could be they played kids for most of the preseason, so a lot of the veterans didn't really get into the swing of things. They seemed a little bit off. They got that lead against Buffalo, and then it fell apart. You can credit Buffalo, and you can also look at Pittsburgh and go, that kind of fell apart there, didn't it? Number 16, dropping 1 spot from where they were last week. Last time I did this, which is July, and that's Carolina. Carolina, again, Reimer concerns me. If Reimer's going to be one of the top 2 goalies, I do find that somewhat concerning. And so, for me, Carolina is in that 16 spot. Should they make the playoffs? Yeah, probably. Are they miles ahead of, say, number 20 Columbus? Not really, no. So they're in one of those positions where I've seen some projections they're going to get better. I'm not making that same projection. So number 15, dropping 2 spots from where I had them last time, and that's Winnipeg. And I really sincerely debated where to have Winnipeg. Going into today, no, let's look at it this way. Before they signed Laine and before they signed Connor, I had them down at 18th. I thought if they don't have Laine, they don't have Connor, they don't have Bufflin, I don't even think they're a playoff team. But with them back, I have them in 15th. The reason they've still dropped is Connor and Laine missed camp. That's going to affect one, the other, or both. And then the fact that Bufflin still isn't on that blue line, it really makes it hard for them to score enough goals to outscore their mistakes. And that's where Winnipeg's going to be at. They're going to have to win a lot of games 5-4. And their goaltenders are going to have to be on their toes. They're going to need a fantastic season from both Brossoit and Hellebuck to have a chance to get anywhere near a home ice advantage in the playoffs. Right now, they to me look like they're probably a wild card team at best. And if that blue line really falls apart, Heinola is still on the roster as I'm recording this. So maybe he breaks camp with the team, and maybe that makes a difference. We'll see. There's a lot of young kid defensemen that are still around, and it's weird because this draft was only supposed to have a few kids that were ready to play, and it looks like we might have more than a few. Number 14, moving up 9 spots from where I had him before. New Jersey. It is impossible for me to look at what New Jersey's done in the preseason, to look at the acquisition of Gusev, to look at how ready Jack Hughes has looked in the preseason, to look at the numbers Corey Schneider's been putting up in the preseason, not to mention Blackwood's, and not say, okay, New Jersey needs to be higher on this list. Can they stay here? That's where the question is, but there's just too many things for New Jersey right now that look really good. And the fact that they are talking to Taylor Hall and he's willing to talk extension, we could see a really good season for New Jersey. New Jersey's in a division that doesn't look like they have a juggernaut. I mean, as much as Washington looks like they could be, they've had a very good preseason as well. New Jersey could end up by about December being a team we're looking at and saying, could these guys be contenders? So yeah, New Jersey. I've told Devils fans, try not to get too excited. It's just exhibition time. But yeah, I have them right now as top two rows. Number 13, dropping 4 spots from where I had them the last time around, and that's the Islanders. Um, the Islanders, I think, are one of those middle of the road teams, and could I see them falling out of the playoffs? Yes. Could I see Barry Trotz willing them into the playoffs? That's more likely. I still think they're a playoff team. I've just dropped them from where I had them last time. Number 12, and in the same spot they were last time, Dallas. I think adding Pavelski, good move. I also think Pavelski's older, and I don't expect a 35-plus goal season for Pavelski this year in Dallas. I expect about 25. I expect about 60 points, which is roughly the same as he had last year. But I don't think the goal scoring is going to be as strong. And I'm already seeing some signs in the preseason that problem Dallas had last year where they just didn't have that dynamic offense. It doesn't look like a whole lot's changed this year. And I want it to change desperately. I want to see Hintz continue what he started in the playoffs, but I also want to see some more scoring from this team. Desperately. Number 11. Down 5 spots from where I had them the last time around, and that's Colorado. Why did Colorado drop? Mikko Rantanen signs today. Meaning he's going to come over, as long as there's no visa issues or anything, he's going to come straight over. And he didn't have training camp with the team. He hasn't had a chance to play with his line mates since, April? Late April? It's going to take some time. So that's why I've dropped Colorado down. It's going to take time for this to be all ironed out, I would think. I don't think they're going to have synergy right from day one. It's not going to be Willie Nylander levels of, trying to catch up, but he still missed training camp. He missed the exhibition season. And so I think it'll probably take him a little bit of time. And I'm also a little bit nervous about some of the goaltending numbers right now. And again, you don't want to read too much into what's happened in the exhibition games, but you also don't want to just throw all of it out. It's that balance that's kind of tough sometimes. Number 10, dropping 2 spots from where I had him in July, and that's San Jose. And the Sharks, some people don't see them as a playoff team. Some people think they're going to win the division. So, have at her. And the possible, maybe they're going to fall out of the playoffs would be because they did lose Pavelski, that heart and soul player, and that is really hard to replace. And they didn't get Marleau. They're not going to get Marleau. They're going to rely on some kids, although the kids that people were counting on coming up, most of them have already been sent down to the AHL franchise. So we'll see where San Jose's at pretty early this season, I think, unless those kids are going to come up around January, and then all of a sudden everything's fantastic. Number 9, moving up 1 spot from where I had them the last time I did this, Florida. Bobrovsky, pretty solid last couple of games. And if Bobrovsky can start this season the way he ended last season in Columbus, they are a playoff team. They're already being picked to win the Stanley Cup by people here and there. And there's already expectations of, they could go to the conference finals. They could be a huge... Okay. Now, I like Florida. And I like what they've done, and I think it's important to acknowledge that they've made some smart moves. But let's be just a little bit realistic here. Until we've seen how this all works, and if Bobrovsky's going to be great out of the starting gate, I don't want to put him any higher than 9th. Couldn't do it tonight. I just couldn't. Number 8, moving up 6 spots from where I had them the last time I did this, Nashville. Nashville looked great in the preseason. And honestly, I had them too low when I did this in July, and they've looked great. I think Nashville, maybe they're going to get another 100-point season. Maybe we're going to see the Predators as a Stanley Cup contender again next spring. They've looked good. And Saros has looked good. Rene's, everything is going pretty well for Nashville. And the veteran players that you want to see on the score sheet have been, for the most part. And again, you don't play your veteran roster often during the preseason, so that's where it gets tricky. Number 7, moving up 4 spots from where I had them last time, is Calgary. So right now it looks like the moves that Calgary's made, pretty smart. Even Lucic, from everything we're seeing, looks a lot more invested in having a good season in Calgary than he may have been last year for Edmonton. Which, it's going to be interesting to see how it translates during the regular season. But yeah, the Flames look like they should be a playoff team. Riddick has been pretty solid already. I'm not sold on Talbot. They've waived Gillies, so it's gonna be Talbot. It's gonna be Riddick. Riddick, I think, has to play 55 games this year. That's where I'm ballparking. 55 games, maybe 60, but probably 55 games. And then Calgary should be a playoff team as long as he can play all season the way he did the first half of this past season. Number 6, and I debated whether or not to drop these guys. So I dropped Toronto by 2 spots. And here's my thinking on that. They've had 3 shutouts in the preseason. I could justify having them as high as first, based on how they've played in the preseason. But there's a lot of talk about Toronto, and there's a lot of off-ice distractions. And I know they've had a really good preseason. I want to see that during the regular season. And I don't know. There's still something with Toronto, and maybe it's that blue line. Maybe I want to see Sandin in a regular season game. I want to see the new defensive pairings in regular season games and see how that works. Because the hockey intensity picks up quite fast, and that's why we'll see guys have really good training camps, really good preseasons, and then the regular season rolls around and they're just done. Last year, for instance, Ty Ratty with the Oilers had an excellent preseason. Even in games he played that weren't with Connor McDavid, he played really well. And then the regular season, it's a completely different beast. And so we'll see how things work out with Toronto in the regular season with that blue line. I still have them top 6. Number 5, moving up 2 spots from where I had them last time, is Vegas. They had a couple of bobbles at the end of it, but when they're going, they're deadly. And I've got a funny feeling that the Pacific Division is theirs to lose. And I've heard that said not just on Vegas broadcasts, although the Vegas broadcasters, very, very bullish on their team. And very much of the belief that Vegas is going to be a contender. So we'll see if that's going to be the case or not. I do think that they had an excellent preseason. Again, a couple of not great games towards the end for them. But overall, their numbers are pretty solid. And that top 6 is intimidating. Number 4, moving up 1 spot from last time, is Boston. They had a very good preseason. They did. And Rask, Halak, both look really good. Their defense looks solid. I mentioned in the review tonight, David Backes looks like he is at least able to keep up this year. That his speed seems to have been helped by some training he did in the offseason with a figure skating coach. And, Boston looks good again. And I apologize to the rest of the fans in the East and around the rest of the NHL. But, yeah, Boston looks good again. Number 3, and this is where the debate comes in. Tampa. So, Tampa's preseason, they struggled to score. Right? And you can look at that and say, well, it's just preseason. It doesn't mean anything. But can I really have them in first place? So I dropped down Colorado because Rantanen just signed. Part of the reason Winnipeg's down here is because Connor and Laine missed training camp. Braden Point missed most of training camp as well. I can't, he only signed a couple days ago. I can't have Tampa in first when one of their main players, one of their best players, could potentially be behind the other players, and they didn't have a great camp offensively either. Their goaltending looks good. Their defensive numbers seem solid, but yeah, so we'll see how things turn out. Now, numbers 2 and 1, you guys know who's 2 and 1, right? Number 2, I have St. Louis, so they're in the same spot they were last time, and I put Washington in first place. The Washington Capitals had an excellent camp. The only uncertainty with Washington right now is Ovechkin, who had some kind of a lower body injury that they don't really want to talk about. And again, there's a lot of injuries around the NHL right now that teams aren't talking about. So the Capitals I have starting the season at 1. I have the Blues starting the season at 2 because Binnington finds ways to win even in the preseason. And so for that reason, I have the Capitals in first overall. So there you go. The power rankings, and again, they're preseason. I consider them kind of placeholders. I'm like, okay, here's where the starting point is for everybody. And now we start playing the games on Wednesday that matter, which means that next Saturday, I won't have a whole lot to go on when it comes to the power rankings for next Saturday. There may be a little bit of movement. If anybody's wondering, I'm going to do it the same way that I did it at the end of last season. If a team wins a game, they don't necessarily move up. Early in the season, they would kind of have to. But as the season moves along, it'll get harder to move up or move down. Which some people loved that idea, some people didn't. The one thing I'll say is this. If I had continued with the dynamic power rankings where teams dropped based on wins, losses, improved based on wins and losses, Tampa wouldn't have been number one. It would not have been number one going into the playoffs. And some of the teams that scored upsets in the first round would absolutely have been higher on the power rankings. So I'm going to play with it. I'm going to come up with a formula on my own, and then I'll just stick with it for the season. So we'll see how things go. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through it. Again, these are placeholders. This is a starting point. And now we get into the games that matter starting on Wednesday. So keep your schedule clear on Wednesday. And yes, the channel will start doing live streams again where we watch games together this coming week. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.